Hey everyone, my name's Jordan. I'm the head coach here at Sabersim, and in this video, I'm going to be giving you a quick walkthrough of how Sabersim works. The first thing that you need to know about Sabersim is that our one-of-a-kind simulations power all of our tools. We run thousands of play-by-play simulations for every single game, giving you powerful data like the full ranges of outcomes for every player, their correlations, and more. When you build your lineups, all of this data gets factored in automatically, and to do that, we follow a simple three-step lineup building process. First, you review your player pool, then you select your contest, and finally, you dial in your exposures. We like to think of this as laying your foundation in the first step, building your house in the second, and making it your own in the third. The first step of the process, reviewing your player pool, happens right here. There's a lot of data to unpack here. Team totals, player projections, ownership projections, detailed stat projections, and more. And this all comes directly from our simulations. Because you've partnered with Runpuresports, this step is going to be pretty easy as they've done the heavy lifting for you by adding their own projections, player pools, and cores. I'll just go ahead and select the Runpuresports projections to use and specify my player pool as the AP heat map pool. You'll have another chance to fine-tune your lineups in step 3, but if you already know how you want to handle a certain player, it's better to put that in now so that the foundation of the lineups are the way you want them to be. After reviewing your player pool, then click the Build Lineups button to go to step 2, select your contest. Rather than explaining all of the settings you see on this page right now, I'm going to cover the most important ones, which are our sliders. These 3 sliders allow us to control the weight of the 3 biggest factors to success in DFS: correlation, ownership, and variance. The higher the correlation slider goes, the more your lineups will favor positively correlated players like a QB and their wide receiver, while avoiding players with negative correlations like a QB and the opposing defense. This data comes directly from our sims and isn't based on misleading historical averages. The ownership fade slider controls how much you want to fade the chalk. The higher the slider, the more likely your lineups are to fade highly owned players. Finally, the higher the sim variance slider goes, the fewer game simulations we use to build each individual lineup. This means the higher the slider is, the more diverse, varied, and volatile your lineups will be because each lineup is taking into account a much wider range of each game outcome. Don't overthink this step. If you're just getting started, simply tell us what type of contest you're playing, and we'll automatically adjust these settings to build you the right kinds of lineups. If you want more control, you can make manual adjustments, but we've done a ton of backtesting here to determine the best options for each contest, so don't feel like you have to make changes here. If you want to take advantage of the RPS core players, then head over to the Rules tab before building your lineups. I'll go over here and set a rule to use at least 3 players from AP's core in every single lineup. And that's going to mean that in every lineup that I build, I'm going to get 3 players that AP has singled out as his top players on the slate. This section is also where our stacking rules live. Our correlation slider is automatically going to give you strong stacks appropriate for the sport you're playing. But if you want more control over the process, you can set specific stacking rules here. As we hit build and move on to the last step, which is dialing in exposures, it's important to note that we're not just building you the exact number of lineups you're playing, we're building you a much larger pool of lineups, which is going to make this last step very powerful. With your lineup pool, you can instantly make adjustments to exposures without having to go back and build new lineups each time. On the left side, you'll see player exposures, team stacks, game stacks, and stack types, and you can adjust the minimum and maximum exposure for each of these to make adjustments to your lineups on the fly. If you feel like you have too much exposure to a certain player, you can set their max exposure to, say, 50%, and we'll sort through your pool of 500 lineups or however big your pool size is to find the best set of lineups that match that and any other exposures that you've set. Step 3 is really mostly for quality control or for fine-tuning. If you're making significant changes on step 3, like removing a player you got a ton of or locking in a player you got very little of, it's better to go back and make those adjustments on step 1 so that we can build you a better pool of lineups to work with. Once you're satisfied with your final pool of lineups, hit the Save button in the upper right and we're ready to get our lineups into our contests. Fortunately, Sabersim's entry editor makes that process a breeze. I'll quickly show you in just a few steps how you can get your lineups into your contests. Head over to the Entries tab in the main navigation. Then you can click the Download Template File link, which is automatically going to download the file that you're playing for your entries for that night. Then upload that entry and upload it into the entry editor. Then we're just going to click Fill Contests with Lineups, select the lineups that we just built from our build, and click Apply. And then finally, all we need to do is click Download Entries and download and open DraftKings in this case, and we can get our lineups into the contests. There's a lot more to unpack at every step of the process on Sabersim, but I hope this was a helpful introduction to get you started. And if you need help or have any questions with any other parts of the process, check out some of our other tutorial videos. Thanks and good luck.